Hello and welcome once again to Beatle University. I am Professor Moptop, and as we continue to dig deep into all things Beatles in our continuing quest to learn everything about the band, today we learn about detectives. In the past, we've talked about the Coasters and how their humorous songs, with some serious musicianship, greatly inspired the Beatles to perform and create greatness of their own. The producers and primary songwriters for the Coasters was the team of Jerry Leiber and Mike Stoller, who wrote an astonishing amount of great rock and roll records. An extremely small sampling includes Hound Dog, Ruby Baby, Jailhouse Rock, There Goes My Baby, Stand By Me, On Broadway, and The Reverend Mr. Black, to name just a few. They also wrote Down in Mexico, One Kiss Led to Another, Yakety Yak, Charlie Brown, Poison Ivy, Love Potion No. 9, and Along Came Jones, and those were just for the Coasters. The Beatles, of course, were fans of much of this music, and George Martin also probably took notice years before he even crossed paths with the Beatles, who would study the details on the 45 record labels and music charts. They would recognize the names Leiber and Stoller as familiar faves who were listed on some of their very favorites, most consistently on Coasters records.
I saw her standing on the corner, a yellow ribbon in her hair. I couldn't keep myself from shouting, look there.
Look at there.
Look at there. Look at there.
We talked in the past about Youngblood, a Coaster song the Beatles covered and performed on many occasions, a couple that were even recorded. And this time around, we're going to talk about the B-side of the Coasters' Youngblood single, which had a very similar fate for the Beatles, being performed in their live show for a long time, never officially being recorded for an EMI release. Searchin was released by the Coasters in March of '57, and Paul tells a story of going to his friend Colin Hanton's to relieve him of the Searchin 45. That means he stole it from him.
Gonna find her. Gonna find her. Yeah, I've been searching. I'm searching. Oh yeah.
After learning both sides of the single, the band would frequently perform them at the Cavern Club, as well as any of the other gigs that they would have. The Beatles were adoringly drawn to all things American, and the young and impressionable musicians all individually enjoyed Searchin', which mentioned several American detectives, and it tells the story of love in a most unusual manner. The first part of the song details the singer traveling to rivers and mountains to find the girl, who we are not even sure why or if she needs to be searched for. In the song, a Northwest Bounty is mentioned, which of course is a Canadian thing, but the Beatles sort of thought of the entire continent of North America as being one giant land of dreams called the United States. Blueberry Hill is mentioned, which was not only a song by another of the band's favorites, Fats Domino, but they were always impressed with songs that mentioned other songs.
I found my thrill on Blueberry Hill.
There's also a large list of popular detectives mentioned in the song.
You know I'll bring her in some.
Sherlock Holmes was a British private detective created by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. He was portrayed in film by Basil Rathbone.
But how do you know about them?
Elementary, my dear Watson.
Sam Spade was the detective in the novel The Maltese Falcon, created in 1930 by Dashiell Hammett. Spade was portrayed by Ricardo Cortez in the 1931 version of the film.
Well, here's your blackbird.
And in 1941 by Humphrey Bogart.
Give me your hat.
Never mind that. Let's talk about the Blackbird.
Sergeant Friday was the fictional Los Angeles police detective in Dragnet, a radio drama adapted into a television show and portrayed by Jack Webb. He was also the creator.
Ladies and gentlemen, the story you're about to see is true. The names have been changed to protect the innocent.
Charlie Chan was created by Earl Derbiggers in 1919, who fashioned his creation after reading about a Honolulu detective named Chang Apana, introducing the character in the 1925 House Without a Key novel.
To the greatest detective in the world.
Not very good detective. Just lucky old Chinaman.
Boston Blackie was initially a jewel thief and a safecracker when created by Jack Boyle in 1914. He was turned into a reformed criminal who would solve crimes to clear his name, portrayed by Chester Morris in film and for radio.
Oh, now I remember. Who were they?
I don't know. They didn't wait long enough to be introduced.
Bulldog Drummond was a literature, film, and radio character created by H.C. McNeilan in 1920. Drummond was a wealthy British gentleman adventurer who would seek excitement after being bored once the fighting of the Great War commenced.
2 gentlemen, I believe, sir.
2 gentlemen?
Yes, sir.
Well, who are they? What do they do? Where do they come from? Where are they going?
Regarding those things, sir, I regretfully admit ignorance.
Complete ignorance?
Complete, sir.
Although the Beatles performed Searchin on many occasions, there is only one known recording of the song, and it's from the Decca auditions. It's uncertain if McCartney knew the lyrics and changed them gradually over time, or if he never knew them in the first place and just added his own words as he needed them.
Well, I'm Charlie Chan, Simon Slade, brother, child on me.
He mentioned Simon Spade as opposed to Sam Spade, which was likely just the way he misheard it and always sang it. He also mentions Peter Gunn, who not only wasn't in the original, but wasn't even around when the Coasters first recorded the song. Peter Gunn was an American television series in the late 1950s, and it had a theme song that was composed by Henry Mancini. Trumpeter Ray Anthony had a hit with the Peter Gunn theme in June of '59, and all the Beatles knew was that the song was a theme from a show with the detective, a well-placed bit of artistic licensing from the Beatles. The Beatles recorded a high-energy version of the song for the Decca audition, and John, Paul, George, and Pete were all a bit nervous, feeling that a lot was on the line. We don't know if this was just the arrangement that the band had settled on, or if under the pressure of the situation, they made some mistakes in the performance, as the Beatles version is very different than the Coasters. The first verse of the original is missing completely, and there is no mention of swimming or climbing or rivers or mountains or Blueberry Hill. This might be more artistic licensing, or it might just be nerves. While they felt very highly of the song, enough to perform it in the beginning of '62, it was shortly left off their list, considered perhaps a little bit too goofy or hammy, and this didn't fit especially well with the image of serious musicians that they were aiming for. Being taken seriously was very important to the Beatles. As they would evolve as songwriters, the Beatles would always keep the Coasters, as well as Leiber and Stoller in general, in mind, always trying to create records that were above average, and they also wanted to give their fans something great, not just on the A-side, but on the flip side as well. Just like that Youngblood single, backed with Searchin, which is undoubtedly a world-class record, one for the ages. And with that, we say so long for another lesson here of Beatle learning. Join me back here next time when we continue to learn as much as we humanly possibly can all about those guys named the Beatles. Until then, class dismissed. I am Professor Moptop.
1, 2, 3, 4.
A Moptop production.
Very good.